Hey there guys, and welcome back to another one of my Doctor Who book reviews, and today I'm going to be reviewing a book which I recently read and is written by Steve Lyons, who is a very popular author, and that book is The Stealers of Dreams. So yeah, this book features the Ninth Doctor, one of my favourite Doctors and my first Doctor. I love him just not because he's my first, but I just think he's a generally underrated and fantastic Doctor. To paraphrase the Ninth Doctor, he is fantastic, and I really enjoy his performance. And this isn't the only Ninth Doctor book I've read. I've also read The Clockwise Man, which I thought was an average book. It was very slow and tedious at times, but no, I enjoyed it. But I decided to read The Stealers of Dreams, which is incidentally the last Ninth Doctor book, because there's only 6 of them, because obviously he only had 1 year of his era. So yes, let's take a look at the book, and I'll show you and tell you my thoughts and opinions on The Stealers of Dreams. So The Stealers of Dreams is a 254 page long Doctor Who book. So it's, that's about the same size for a lot of the new series books, because they're only roughly about 250 pages long for quite a lot of them. So yeah, it didn't take me that long to read. There was a few times when I was tired from work, so I think roughly it took me about 5 days to read, because I had breaks in between, but that's because I was just tired from work and I just couldn't be bothered to read. So yes, I'll start off with the main positives of the book. I think the pacing is absolutely fantastic. If you're one of those people that are really into sort of books with a drive, then this is definitely one that I would recommend, because it just flows. It's got such a great pacing, and I think all the characters are incredibly well written and characterized, especially obviously the main characters, because you've got the Ninth Doctor, Rose, and Captain Jack in this book, which is really cool. And I'll just show you the presentation of the book. So you've got the Ninth Doctor, Rose there. I think they sort of photoshopped Rose's jacket for a lot of these books, because it seems to me like she's just wearing the same sort of jacket, unless there's different colours of these jackets, which I'm not too sure, but it seems to me like they've just sort of photoshopped each jacket to suit him with the background. So yeah, I really like this cover. It's very sort of hard-line science fiction type cover, which the story I suppose sort of is. So yeah, I really like that cover. Stealers of Dreams by Steve Lyons. We've got the side, sort of bluish green there, and we've got the blurb. I'll read you the blurb, and we've got a little description there. In the far future, the Doctor, Rose, and Captain Jack find a world in which fiction has been outlawed. A world where it's a crime to tell stories, a crime to lie, a crime to hope, and a crime to dream. But now somebody is challenging the status quo. A pirate TV station urges people to fight back, and the Doctor wants to help, until he sees how easily dreams can turn into nightmares. With one of his companions stalked by the shadows, and the other committed to an asylum, the Doctor is forced to admit that fiction can be dangerous after all, though perhaps it is not as deadly as the truth. And it says here, featuring the Doctors played by Christopher Eccleston, together with Rose and Captain Jack as played by Billy Piper and John Barrowman in the hit TV series from BBC Television. Yeah, I bought this in a second-hand bookshop for £1.50, and as you can see, there's the sticker in it, and it says this book belongs to blank. So I tried to rip it off, but I think it'll probably just end up ruining the book. So I just left it on there. So yes, like I said, my main positives for this book is that the characterisation, the pacing are two of the best bits about the book, because the characterisation is absolutely fantastic, and the pacing just flows so easily, and you can read this probably really quickly. There have been a couple of people that said they managed to read this in a day. I don't know how you can read a book in a day, especially a 250 page book, unless you've got a lot of time in your hands. But that's just me. So the main story is that the Doctor and Rose and Captain Jack arrive on this planet, and it's got a very dull name, but it's actually got a second name, which we find out later on in the book. Probably won't say what it is because I've actually forgotten, to be honest, because the original name has a load of numbers and something major or whatever. So yeah, they arrive on this planet and they encounter this sort of kid called Dominic, who's been labelled as a geek because he's always fantasy crazy, and I'm surprised he didn't get sent to the Big White House, which is brought up a lot in this book. And the Big White House is basically a mental asylum for people who are fantasy crazy, and they try to sort of cure you by sort of containing you in this Big White House for a long period of time. Yeah, so that's it's quite dark in some places, because there is a point where I thought one of the characters actually did commit suicide, but no, he didn't. So I thought that would be a bit dark for especially a new series book, because I know the classic Doctor Who books often do go in a very dark direction sometimes. I think one of my main problems with the book is that the Ninth Doctor isn't really in it that much. It's more focused on Rose and sometimes Captain Jack as well. But the Doctor does get a lot of page, would you call it page time? A bit like screen time, but page time towards the end, which is good because it helps with the payoff. And the climax is very, very good, and the payoff is brilliantly handled as well. It's a shame this was Steve Lyons' last book that he'd written for Doctor Who. I think that's correct, because I know he did do quite a lot of Doctor Who books before, one of them being The Murder Game, which I've actually got. So yeah, the pacing is fantastic. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed this book. As for the supporting characters, like I said, we have Dominic, who's been labelled as a geek. We also have a character who's called Inspector Kimmy Waller, and her story is really well realised, and you actually do feel quite sorry for her towards the end. I won't go into too much spoiler territory because the twist is really, really good, and I won't reveal what the twist is because I really want you to experience this book if you haven't read this already. I know of a few people on YouTube who have read it, and they all say it's fantastic, and I think it's one of those overlooked books, because obviously it features the Ninth Doctor, who is an overlooked Doctor in my opinion. Well, especially nowadays, not so much in the Russell T Davies era, obviously, because it wasn't that long since he left. But now I think he's very overlooked, and I think the Ninth Doctor books are overlooked as well, because, like I said, there's only been 6 of them. So yes, just a fantastic story. My main sort of worry about this going into it was that I'm not really a huge fan of hardline science fiction, because this book is very heavy sci-fi, but it wasn't so sci-fi that I just got fed up of the jargon and all that sort of stuff. It was very, very entertaining, very interesting actually, and there's a character called Hal Graydon who a lot of people sort of respect and sort of want to follow him, and sometimes some of them want to meet him, and it's very interesting where his story goes, but I'm not going to tell you much more about his character because there's so much I want to say but I can't say because it's I don't want to spoil it for you. So yeah, that's one of the things about reviewing this book is bugging me, because there are so many good things about the story that are just sort of spoil the territory, and I'm just trying to go light on this book without giving much away, and it's kind of hard to at the moment. So yes, I think the whole concept of the Big White House is very, very good. I've always been interested in sort of like asylums, particularly abandoned asylums. Not that I ever want to end up in an asylum, obviously, because that would be just really weird. Yeah, I just think the whole story set in an asylum is really good, and when Jack gets taken to an asylum, which is sort of like a minor spoiler, I guess, because it says on the back that one of his companions gets taken to an asylum, and that companion is Jack. It's quite terrifying actually when he gets in there, because you have literally no idea what they might do to him, and it's very interesting how he gets out of it. So yeah, I think The Stealers of Dreams is an absolutely fantastic book, one of my favourite Doctor Who books actually, and if I had to give it a rating, I'd say I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. It's just really, really, really good, or 4 out of 5 stars or whatever. Whatever your rating system is. So yeah, fantastic, really enjoyed it. Definitely check it out. It's probably one of my favourite Doctor Who books of all time, and obviously it's written by Steve Lyons, who is praised all the time. He's been given so much credit, and I think that is deserved, because he did an absolutely brilliant job with this book. As you can see, the book is a bit wonky because of the fact it's second-hand. It's not perfect. It's not in perfect condition. So yes, thank you very much for watching my Doctor Who book review. I hope to upload more videos soon. I'm currently reading a book called The Feast of the Drowned, which is written by Stephen Cole, and it's featuring the 10th Doctor. I'm reading a lot of new series books at the moment, because it seems like they are a bit overlooked now, because a lot of people are focusing on the classic books, which is great, but I would like to see a few more new series book reviews, because that would be cool. So yes, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next time.